Today I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm at the farm of an urban farmer. It's Drew Sample. He's growing microgreens in his basement and in this greenhouse. We're going to find out how he's doing it, why he's doing it, and what the journey's been like, because it hasn't always been easy. Stay tuned for that coming up in this one. Now we're inside Drew Sample's greenhouse here. This is where he's growing all of his microgreens outdoors. He finishes them essentially here, but he does all the potting up, the seed starting indoors. That's where we're going to start on this one. So we'll go down indoors into his basement to see how he's doing that.
So yeah, now we'll head downstairs. This is where we start the seeds and get everything prepped to take it outside for the microgreens because we grow everything outside. So this is my basement.
You know, Drew, looking at this, one thing I find interesting, you have really 3 different ways you're starting these trays happening here. A tray, shallow tray, not covered, shallow tray covered with an upside down, deeper tray, and then you have some stacked with bricks.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the 3 different styles you have going and why you're doing it for each one?
Absolutely. So the cilantro, we actually do start we actually start them weighed with the bricks, and then we found nobody online really had a good explanation for how to grow cilantro. So we looked at so many different things, and actually John Dowie and he was the only one that was really doing it. I don't think Curtis has done it. He does like basils and some other stuff. But it was something that was like a crop that one of my chefs specifically ordered, and they told me how much they were paying for it. And they were like, look, I'm sure you'll grow up better, but we'll pretty much pay the same. So I get it's a higher value crop. It's usually they pay about $32 for half a pound. I'm charging a little bit more than that per pound. So the thing with the cilantro though is it takes a lot longer to germinate. So what we had done for a while was we would take it out and then the sun would scorch it immediately. So what we figured out what worked best was we would originally stack it, and then it would actually go to something like this, and then we would remove the cover to let it kind of get up and so we could get maximized germination. So and I'll show you when we're harvesting, like sometimes things just die. I mean, unfortunately, the trays we're going to show you a squirrel actually got into, but that's something else. So this is arugula. So with the arugula, the seeds and mustard, because they're smaller seeds. So with the smaller seeds, you can't really stack. We tried stacking them. I didn't actually originally stack anything, and I saw Curtis did it, and I saw a lot of people would do it. But I didn't. I never really thought it made a difference. And then again, it was something Rich did, and then we figured out just from stacking it how much better it looks, like how much straighter the crops come up. So these are pea tendrils right here. So that's why we have these ones stacked. So these actually take a little bit longer than the normal shoots. So it was one of those things that it was another crop that I had chefs say, oh, I like tendrils, but I don't like shoots. And then he saw my pea shoots and he ended up liking those too. So then it was like a bonus crop. And it's something that's easy to grow. But the tendrils, they don't yield as well as the pea shoots, and they don't grow as quickly. And it's a little bit bigger of a seed. So those actually stay in here a little bit longer. And then the mustard and arugula, the arugula tends to be like, it tends to be ready about a day before the mustard. And so we'll just take the top off and we'll take it out. So it's just mainly the size seed seems to be a huge difference of when we do this. So we do stack the radish, I believe. Yeah, we do stack the radish, but I'm sorry.
So it's just a lot of trial and error really to arrive at this. You know, I guess the lesson here, the takeaway is there's never really one prescribed thing. Mm-hmm. You know, you'll see growers like Curtis or Chris Doe, they might stack everything, but that works in their system, and you found trying what you're doing, whether that's seed type or how you want the finished product to look or where you're growing it, like outside. Given that it can scorch, you have to switch around these techniques. So you have the stacking, the open, and then the covered. Do you find that this dome really helps just keeping humidity in there for germination? Or
that, and then also too, believe it or not, I was doing corn shoots for a little bit, and corn shoots, it's another high value crop. It's just something I'll probably go to later. I was trying to do too many crops at once. But also too, like these lights, if we're in here seeding trays or if we're in here doing anything, it also keeps light away from them. I mean, that's a big thing, but yeah, I think it really helps with the humidity. but it also helps just with just keeping light off of them. And honestly too, man, a lot of this is monkey see, monkey do. Like I saw somebody else doing it and I'm like, well, let's see if it helps. So I don't even know why. I mean, I couldn't even tell you why it helped. It was like, well, I'm gonna this guy, Joseph Swain, he's like a local mentor. This is something I saw him doing. So this is something we started doing. So that was it too. I think, being able to, so I think, something that Curtis and Chris are a great resource. They're a great online resource. But if you have somebody locally that has been doing it too, and they're cool. I mean, like that helps as well. I mean, because they're not in my climate. They're not, their market's different. So, I mean, one of the things why I switched to mustard and arugula was my chefs don't like the bigger leaves of radish. So the bigger leaves of radish, my chefs didn't like. So it was, they wanted something and then they liked the flavor. And then a lot of it too was just, well, I'm going to try growing, they like the mustard. So let's try growing arugula and then let's see if they like that mix and taste. So a lot of it, man, it was kind of like reading the chef and then kind of monitoring what they sold and figuring out what they liked about the product, asking what they liked about the product, having that. I think that was the biggest thing. It's like, well, what do you like? Like what don't you like about the microgreens you're getting now? So a lot of it was price. A lot of it. So there's my biggest competition in microgreens at nicer restaurants is a place up north that ships it down 2 hours and they charge a whole lot more money than I did. And I didn't even know that. I was just selling off of Curtis's course. So it's like, oh man, I probably could have sold more. But then at the same time, it's like, I don't know if I would have necessarily gotten the referrals that I've gotten had I came in with higher pricing. So, and also too, I didn't have the confidence that I could consistently deliver because I was just starting out. So,
I mean, one thing I think that this comes up a lot with people is they learn something in a book, they learn something in a course, they apply it, and then it doesn't work right away, and then they tend to just throw everything out and quit. And I think the approach that I find a lot that works is, you start with a basic model of somebody who's doing something that works, and then try and mimic that as best as possible to start, and then adjust that to your climate, adjust that to your growing space, adjust that to your customer base. Yeah,
I did that, but it wasn't, I think it was because I felt like I had to, man. Because the last time, we'll plug our last podcast that we did, I was really ready to be done with farming. I burned out so hard last year.
Why do you think that was? What was the cause of that?
I think the cause of it was like there was a lot of stuff I didn't like to do. There was a huge learning curve for me. I was good at the things a lot of people aren't. Like I was good at sales. I was good at getting land. I wasn't good at consistently doing the necessary farming tasks. Like I just wasn't good at it. Like I was giving my best 50 hours a week to somebody else, which is for a lot of people. And then also too, man, I think I was trying to do too much, man. I think, figuring out, I think I wanted to make money so bad, I'd lost sight of why I started farming. And I started thinking too much about money instead of thinking about a lifestyle and thinking about like, okay, this could be a backup plan for when I get laid off. And that was why I originally started getting into it. And also it was fun. And then I stopped having fun. And I think it was like, okay, I stopped having fun. I need to take a huge step back. I mean, something you said to me was, yeah, it sounds like you're trying to talk yourself into farming. And it was something, because I said, I'm not sure I'm a farmer. I think I might just focus on aggregating. And then, so this year though, I've done a mixture of both. So I think it's, but this is, something Scott Hebert and I talked a lot about is growing your high dollar crops. And everyone was saying you need to start growing microgreens, that's going to make the most sense for you. And I just had this silly resistance to it. But I think once Rich got here and I just had somebody to kind of hold my hand and somebody to work with, it was like, okay, well, let's keep scaling this up. Let's keep figuring this out. And another thing too is like, I quickly get into this zone of let's get these products up, and your podcast of Chris have helped because Rich will listen to those, and he's like, Chris only did one crop. His first, how many years did he do just pea shoots?
At least 1 year, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was adding cilantro, then I was trying to add corn, and then I'm like, well, let's do mustard and arugula. So I stopped doing radish for a while. I removed corn, and then I added tendrils, but it was like, okay, well, now we kind of are in a spot to where it's more consistent, but mainly the main cash crops that we have are the arugula and mustard.
So arugula and mustard, those are your main crops that you have, and those mostly go to chefs.
Go to chefs, yeah, and then farmers markets too. So the farmers markets, people like the spicy bit pea shoots. Pea shoots too. The pea shoots go to chefs too. Sunflower, man, I would like to market those. I can't get them to look pretty. When you look at sunflower shoots that I sell versus everything else, it's just like the look of the product, I just can't get it to where it looks really clean. And maybe once we get more infrastructure in place for like a washing and drying station, that might change. I would like to do sunflower. Nobody's really doing sunflower shoots around here. But it's just that I've never had an issue with the germination. It's just making the product look nice. Like it just doesn't have that same look of like pea shoots or
the vibrancy and the color.
Correct. Yeah. And so that's something that it's on the list to work through.
For mustard and arugula, the two main crops, what are you able to sell those for to the restaurant market? So
the restaurants, I'm trying to up it. I'm going really low right now, and it was kind of silly. And actually, I've had my chefs tell me to raise prices. And once I haven't done it yet because it's still like the first year I'm going to grow in the wintertime. So there's a lot of questions. I mean, and we'll see the greenhouse set up, and we're getting the room set up. So I've kept it there, but new restaurants I take on, I'm probably going to do 20 a pound, just like the radish, or maybe even 24, depending on the yield.
Say at 20 a pound,
yeah.
What do you think you're making on $20 a pound tray? Your profit is on that?
A tray? Man, that's a good question. I think it's at least $10. I found when I originally started doing mustard, I was doing scarlet frills, and because I saw a Johnny's video, and they were like, "This is scarlet frills mustard," but it's like $80 a pound, and I was like, "That's not what." So then I went down. I was like, "Well, what other mustards will grow well?" Then I found Crimson Tide, and Crimson Tide was like, instead of $80 a pound, it was 16 a pound. So I was like, okay, well, let's buy a pound of this. Let's see how this grows. And it actually grew better. And actually the chefs liked it better. It has a nicer flavor. So I was like, okay, so I started doing Crimson Tide. So it all depends on seed costs. I mean, the dirt, man, I need to calculate. That's one of the things it's at minimum $10 a tray for restaurants.
So let's call it you're making 50% on those.
Yeah.
And people might hear $20 a pound or $25 a pound and think, wow, that's a lot. When you're selling to restaurants, though, given that they're microgreens, they're not moving tonnage of this stuff. How many pounds a week would you say you're selling on average of all your crops?
For restaurants only?
Just across and including farmers markets.
Farmers markets?
And restaurants.
Restaurants? It depends. Now that it's the wintertime, in the summertime, I was doing pretty well. I was doing at least, it depended on the week. I mean, it'd be at least probably 10 to 15 pounds, depending on the yield. So a lot of it was we weren't really getting a consistent yield because when you're growing outdoor, if the sun doesn't come out or just something weird would happen. And it was like, well, you're working with nature, and sometimes you don't predict it. So
even at 10 to 15 pounds, that's a pretty good moving.
Absolutely.
Or at 10 to 15 pounds, you're selling those at $20, $25 a pound.
Well, that's to restaurants, but the farmers market, I'm selling about 40 a pound.
Right. So some decent revenue coming out of that. And just, one thing people fall in love with is that price per pound on microgreens. So I just wanted to say this to emphasize that it's not like you're selling 500 pounds a week of micros at $40 a pound.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the restaurants, what gets me in the door are the microgreens, but the bread and butter sales at farmers market salad mix all day. So having that fresh salad has been that's something else I don't like to I tried. I see people, they bring all these different crops in, and it just seems like, man, that's a lot of money in storage. That's a lot of work to get prepped. I'm pretty happy if I make $200 a market. If I can get 200 to 300, that's perfect. I mean, obviously, I'd eventually like to get more and more and more, but I think it's hard to I want to have a display, and I want to keep things simple. Because the pricing, I do the same thing Curtis says, 1 for 3 or 2 for 5. But when you throw in all these different crops and then you explain it, I'd go down a list and give people a spiel of, I have chard, I have arugula, I have this, I have that. And just kind of looking at me so what do you have? And it wasn't really landing. I noticed if I just bring microgreens and salad mix, and that is what I always have. It was a lot more consistent with sales. So it's not, my earning potential might not be as high at a market, but it was consistent. And for me, it's about consistency, because my biggest goal is just to pay my bills. We can get up to 100 trays in here. So 100 trays is a lot. I mean, that's pretty substantial. So
how many would you sell in a week on a good week?
I think right now we're going through about anywhere from 22 to 30. So we can more than handle the capacity that we were going at the summertime in here. And this isn't a very big room, and it's my basement. So we're gonna redo a lot of stuff. So we're gonna have we're gonna put in a sink. We're gonna put in like an actual planting station. We scrubbed down the wall a little bit. Like I had this stuff up previously to just try to keep it clean in here. But you know, I need to get some better airflow in here, and luckily Rich has some fans already. And then, so it should be pretty fun to do. It's just, I'm trying to maximize outside as much as possible. And I think a lot of it is the hippie in me of wanting the sun to grow stuff, right, versus man trying to mess with it. So, and
it's a lot of figuring it out. Like, you know, this is a theme really with a lot of microgreens. You have this space down here, which is maybe, I don't know, 8 by 20.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily, there's no blueprint for here's how you set up an indoor growing operation for microgreens. So you're using what you have, you're trying to save costs to it, you're trying to be as effective as you can and produce a product. So it's just figure it out and realize that's not going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it too is like, you know, I had it set up already, and then like it's nice having somebody else here. Again, like it's nice having skilled labor, affordable skilled labor. So you know, so Rich and we came to an agreement. He needed a place. He had to leave Connecticut and come here. So I said, well, I need help, so I can trade you housing for labor. And we worked out a deal. And so having somebody else here that is more a systems thinker. I mean, it is nice. He is a permaculture designer. So we're not doing permaculture, but the design aspect of it comes in really, like, it's actually very handy, because Rich will see what I'm trying to do, and then we'll have a conversation about it, and then he'll clean it up and make it look way better. So it's like, yes, this is what I was going for, but I was failing at it miserably, but I was making an attempt. I think, so it's like, you know, so you have to, I mean, Chris Thoreau said something at PV3, if you don't know what to do, just do something. And it's like, you know, just get started and continue to. And that's what it's been. I mean, this whole year, I mean, we've had to adjust multiple times with when we're planting, when we're putting stuff outside. You know, I have to eat some humble pie, and I have to go into the restaurants and tell chefs, hey, I know we said this day, you'd like it this day, but the sun's not working with me this week. Is it okay if it's a day, or hey, I'm going to be a pound short? And it's always worked out. And I think the biggest thing is chefs really appreciate going that extra mile and just having good communication. And it was one thing I was really worried in. One of the line workers who worked really close to the chef said, Drew, you're the most consistent guy that we have that comes in here. Like you come in when you say you're going to come in, and you deliver what you're going to say you're going to deliver. And if you can't, you come in and you let us know
which is
ahead
huge,
of time.
Right?
Yeah.
If the expectation is you're going to screw it up, you're not going to come on time, you're not going to bring what you say you're going to bring. If you do that, you're the positive, not normal.
Yeah, and that's so weird. And I think it probably has a lot to do with my previously work experience of like selling cable at a cable company. Like I constantly had to deal with things not being delivered, or otherwise I was going to lose money. So I think it's like taking those experiences from my old corporate life, and that's again when it comes back to like having the business experience but not having the farm experience. You know, leveraging what I have, being resourceful in what I have, and I have a lot of sales experience and I have a lot of business experience. Like to me, it's okay. I have these customers. How can I nurture them? Especially if they're cool. I mean, if they're not cool, like I've definitely had chefs that were just jerks to me, and I'm like, well, I don't care how much you want to pay me. Like, I don't have to deal with you, so I'm not going to. I'm not going to play that game. There's certain games I'm not willing to play anymore, if that makes sense.